In this episode, I talk with Rustin L Odom about alternate reality games, ARGs. Rustin is a multimedia producer and the creator of the Index Project, a mind-bending sci-fi franchise that blurs the line between story and reality. Spanning multiple mediums, the Index Project includes a film series, comic books, novels, video games, and more. I hope you enjoy this topic, and thanks for watching. Hi, Rustin. It's good to meet you. Glad you're here on Dead Hand Radio. And today we're going to talk about ARGs. Do you have a canned definition or just a brief overview of what ARGs are?
Yeah, well, the funny thing is ARGs are pretty versatile. So it's like everybody's going to have their own definition of it. The way I explain it to financiers and family members and people have no clue what they are, I explain them as almost like Easter egg hunts on the internet. Like you're
Cool.
trying to find clues, and along the way, most ARGs, not all ARGs, but most ARGs tell a story while you're discovering these clues and solving these puzzles. And some of the best, my favorite ARGs are ones that like drum up theories from the audience. You know, like they go, whoa, what does this video mean? And what does that clue mean? And so it kind of creates this interactive storytelling process. And that's, again, my loose definition of it.
Okay, that brings up my first question then.
Yeah.
Are there hard and fast rules for ARGs, such as the narrative cannot change? Like you have a plot from start to finish, and the audience can do, or the participants can do whatever they want within the boundaries of that plot, or can the plot change as the participants, like you said, start to interact and engage, and things start to take turns? What is the rule on that?
Well, I mean, it's really no rules. I mean, it's kind of like saying, here's a book, write what you want, and then you can kind of follow the general ideas and motives and concepts that previous writers have given you, like examples from books you've read in the past. But ultimately, you're going to be writing what you want to write. And so an ARG I've seen ARGs that are following a strict path in storytelling, and so that's what they adhere to. I've seen ARGs where like anything goes. It depends on what the comment on the YouTube video is, that they'll actually change up their whole script. In fact, one of the ARG that I'm working on now literally created a couple of videos based on some of the user engagement in the comments on the previous video. So it's kind of wherever it goes. For me, and I can only speak for myself, is I have a basic idea, a story world where certain like rules apply. It's like a magic realism almost sort of thing using technology. And as long as it fits within those parameters, so it's almost, imagine like the Marvel Universe or Star Wars or something like that. Like you got the Force, right? As long as like user engagement aren't asking you something crazy from the Force or something like that, then for me, all rules apply. Like, just, let's just have fun. Let's see what people want to engage in. But I kind of like to stick in that story world. Whereas I've seen other ARGs, I can't think of the name of it, but there's one where it's like almost a Twitter-based ARG where essentially like people would comment and then it would just went off and it almost developed its own story world. I think that's really hard to manage, and maybe, I don't know, there's some tricks to actually keeping it alive and all that, but so it's everywhere. To answer your question, it's everywhere. It's like,
So,
you got
okay,
your
cool.
super interactive to your story world.
I want to give you a chance to talk about your ARG, the Index, because it is pretty comprehensive. I mean, it's pretty interesting. It's what brought you and I together. I think I originally found you on Twitter, and then through the Twitter feed, I saw your YouTube channel and started following that. Saw the videos about the ARG, and my own journey into ARGs started only a few years ago. I don't remember exactly when, but and I can't remember if it was a book that I read, or it was a podcast that I listened to, or it was something Cicada 3301 that I heard about on the internet. Yeah. So I can't remember which one came first, but all three of those elements kind of spurred me in the direction of you and your ARG. And so when I saw that you were ramping it back up, I decided I wanted to, contact you, have a conversation, and see what comes out of that. Now, what can you tell me about your journey into the world of ARGs? How did you first discover it, and what inspired you to start your own?
Yeah. So my first introduction to ARGs, or at least when I kind of like connected the dots, like, holy cow, this is really cool, like blending a reality entertainment thing, was probably The Dark Knight. When The Dark Knight came out in 1874, I don't remember what it was, but it was, they marketed, it was funny because it was kind of like bloggers and all them have been around for a while, but the internet was still kind of fresh. It wasn't like as baked as it is today, obviously. But what was interesting is their campaign really focused not on, obviously they had like major media channels and ads on TV and stuff like that, but a big part of their marketing budget went toward internet. And one of the things that they did so creatively was that they targeted bloggers by sending remember Dark Knight is the one with the Joker, right? Yeah. So they sent cakes, like literal physical cakes, to all these bloggers. And I used to follow this blog called /Film. I think they're still around. I just haven't seen it in a while. But and they were kind of small-ish. And they had this article that had to like, hey, we just received this anonymous cake. And the cake said, ha, 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 ha. They're just like freaking out. Like, was this from the marketing team of The Dark Knight? Like, this is creeping me out. And they found a phone inside the cake. And like, I don't remember if they like found somewhere like a certain time it was going to call. I can't remember how that played out, but the phone eventually called along with 100 other cakes and bloggers and all that. And it gave them like a code. And then like it created this like huge live event where they had to go find a phone booth, I think it was. Or that might have been a different ARG. But at any rate, it was like turned into this whole thing where they even had websites. And this is the thing that kind of blew me away, is they had websites that were like in story world websites. And I'm sure it exists. It had to have existed before, but it was new to me. And I'm like, holy cow, there is a website dedicated to the Dent character, Harvey Dent, as if he's really running for mayor of Gotham, like as if it's a real city, it's a real political campaign and everything else. And that blending of story world and reality just blew me away. And so I had a project coming out, a film called Nonsense at the time. And I was like, you know what? The film was about like this girl who can't get out of her house. She goes through like one door and ends up coming out of her bed, like out the front door and coming out of her bedroom door. So she's like effectively trapped inside of her house. And I was like, what if I did something like that? So I created like these frames, door frames that were like standing on their own. And I put them all around this college that's near me and to promote the film. And it kind of worked. It wasn't great, but it kind of worked. But it was hella fun, man. Like just to like blend people, create curiosity for people. We even had a website that was kind of dedicated to be like almost like a what's going on there sort of thing. And it was like, for me, that was like that blending. I was like, I can't go back. Like, I can't just do the Hollywood thing. I want to do this weird internet mixing reality sort of thing.
Cool.
Yeah.
So did that lead you directly into the Index, or how did that come about?
Like it was, so Index kind of came out like story first back in 2015, I think is when I first started putting it together. And it was always meant to be connected to an ARG. Like it was always going to be a film series that also would like kind of blend reality with websites and stuff like that. It didn't anticipate it being as like franchisey as it is now, like we're comic books and other video games, as well as an ARG and all that. So it kind of grew, thanks COVID, all that free time. Yeah. But it always was going to be connected to this, like somehow I was going to blend reality, and I was going to have clues that people could follow, and they can kind of develop more story or get more story from pursuing the, I guess, info in or clues and things like that in the actual story world.
So if anybody wants to find out what the Index is, do you want to give an overview of it, or do you want people to go to your channel to watch it?
I give it whatever. So yeah, so like the Index is essentially, it's a sci-fi franchise that's fully independent. I mean, it's largely just me and then random people I hire and stuff like that. But it's fully independent, where it's going to be a kind of, here's how I describe it a lot of times. I describe it almost like an event. So it's a web series, comic book, video game, that sort of thing. But they're all going to be launching in a 12-week period. So I think of it as like a 12-week event where hopefully people will be able to watch it, one episode released each week. So there's 12 episodes. And as they watch it, they'll find clues. They'll kind of go on that little Easter egg hunt on the internet and then discover more story, more videos, release, comic book pages. So it's like kind of like almost, I'm hoping to get like people together on this like huge internet Easter egg hunt over that 12-week span. But it's a sci-fi world where reality is not as stable as we think it is. It's a glitching reality, and people take advantage of that. So corporations and governments and things like that, they go, you know what? Hey, reality's not too stable. I bet we can bastardize the hell out of it. Just like the oil companies. But, so it's like, this weird event that's going to be taking place. And you can find more at theindex.world website. And then I'm sure if you just search on Twitter and YouTube, you can find us there too.
Yeah. And I'll put the links in the description on this.
Yeah.
So how did you come up with the idea? I mean, I understand that you wanted to build an ARG, but how did you come up with the concept of what the Index is? This glitchy world that things just don't quite seem to fit. And, when you find like a I don't know, like a Lego kit where something's not quite right, and if it's out of order, then it leads to a clue that leads you deeper into the puzzle. So what spawned that whole idea?
That's a great way to put it. So I also have, again, I do too many things. I also have my own like personal YouTube video or YouTube channel called Theory Inc. And it's all about like discovering crazy stuff in science or paranormal or government conspiracies, that sort of thing, which is very much like yours.
Cool.
And so one of the things I really got into years ago was the Copenhagen interpretation of quantum mechanics. So it's like the concept, and it's more like woo-woo science, even though I still think there's a little bit of weirdness in it, but it's a weird concept that consciousness kind of shapes reality. If you guys want to do go down a rabbit hole, just search like double slit experiment or quantum eraser experiment. It's wild stuff. Like the implications of it is pretty crazy. Although there's obviously a debate between whether it's real, the interpretation is real science or not. But I don't care. Like it's like that's like fictional gold for me. is like the idea that consciousness creates reality, or like has something to do with reality. And so I guess it just kind of, I like stories like where ambitious characters take advantage, or like almost like the anti-hero characters that find an opportunity and just squeeze it dry. You know what I mean? And so I imagine like a world where people found out that consciousness creates reality. So what happens if companies found out? What if governments found out? What if all these, you know, ne'er-do-well characters found out that it's a reality is actually malleable? How would they take advantage of it? And what would be the implications on reality in general if people took advantage of it? You know, like you can argue like pollution and all that sort of stuff is in the air now. Well, that's because people are chasing after that dollar or power. So what about reality? What happens to reality? Does it start glitching out? Does it start messing up? And what does it look like when somebody weaponizes reality? You know, so that's kind of like that. Those two ideas combined is really what birthed the index.
So you're obviously heavily influenced by science fiction. Can you name like an author or a film director or somebody that has influenced you from an early age?
Sure. Yeah. Stanley Kubrick for sure.
Yeah.
Like 2001
nice
Space Odyssey. I mean, there is no, I mean,
Dr. Strangelove, one of my favorite all-time movies.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Like, is there a movie he's done that you don't like? I mean,
no, but I haven't seen it.
Yeah. And you know, the thing about 2001 Space Odyssey is like, it's thing I love about it is it's like such a deep level without telling everything. You know, like it's like, obviously, you know, I've read the book that as well. The author escapes me right now. It's a famous author too, but whatever. But even his film by itself, or like even The Shining, right? There's so much left in subjective interpretation that literally books and movies and videos and essays and everything else has been done on like what is the actual meaning. Conspiracies, absolutely. Yeah. Have you seen Room 23? That's like it's about The Shining, but it's like all the different conspiracies of what Stanley Kubrick meant about like,
right. So going off into that little patch of weeds or in that rabbit hole.
Love it.
Do you think that he intentionally put those in there, or was that creative license?
Some things I do wonder. Like a few of them, if you watch like the Room 23, I think it might be on Netflix, at least it used to be, but great film. I mean, a lot of it is a little bit of a stretch. But like there's this one particular scene, and I hope I'm not giving out spoilers. Spoiler alert, I guess. But
the movie's 50 years old, man.
Well, I mean, for Room 23, the theory.
Oh, okay. Oh, gotcha.
There's this one, like, that had to have been intentional. It's the one takeaway I had where it's like Stanley Kubrick, I think, intentionally did that. Was in the hallway scene, in that famous, I don't know, like you see it in wallpapers and people's whatever, but like, you know, like the carpet shape.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen? Like it's like a hexagon-ish sort of thing. Very similar to the launch pad, NASA's launch pad for, you know, sending off rockets and stuff.
The Apollo program, right?
Yes, thank you. And there's a moment where I think a ball like rolls into the shot when he's playing on the carpet.
Yeah.
And he's wearing an Apollo, like homemade Apollo shirt, like a little rocket. And he slowly launches off or stands up off of the launch pad. Like, it's too many coincidences. Like, that one, that's the one I'm like, okay, I think he did that on purpose. I'm pretty sure. Now, what significance that is?
Yeah, that's the part where it gets a little, I don't know. Because he goes into, or that theory goes into, that Stanley Kubrick filmed the moon landing here on Earth, and then it was a big, you know, it was all faked, and that was his clue to say that he did it.
And I don't know about that, but like it's fun. I love just diving into things. Like my whole viewpoint is like I have a maybe shelf. And like, I'm never going to say anything for sure. I can't ever do that.
Let's take this back to the index. Now, if that was part of the index, or if we were living in the index world, then that event or sequence of events could have actually changed the history of the Apollo program to where now it is, it is discovered that it was faked. Is that
Sure.
about accurate?
If you have enough power, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, reality's malleable, right? I mean, they're obviously, like, in the index universe, there's, limitations. Like, if you were to use the Star Wars analogy with the Force, you can't do anything with the Force. You can't, like, blow up on a planet with the Force, or maybe you could if you had enough Jedis and Sith working together to focus on it or something. But, like, there's limitations. But yeah, I mean, within reason, you could kind of, like, rewrite history or anything. Like, reality is completely malleable to enough collective consciousnesses coming together to change it.
Right, good stuff. So,
Yeah,
going back to Stanley Kubrick, that is one of the influences on your
for sure. Yeah,
becoming a creative filmmaker, storyteller, world builder. Anybody else? Anybody else fall into that kind of like influence?
Yeah, like not necessarily sci-fi related. I mean, there's like Christopher Nolan. There's I think like P.T. Anderson is probably, as far as filmmakers go, one of my bigger ones.
Who is
as far
that?
as like directing stuff, P.T. Anderson, he did like There Will Be Blood was my favorite.
Oh, okay, good movie. Yeah, good movie.
Yeah, he did a lot. He did
totally not science fiction though.
No, not at all. But
that's like
I guess more like
almost a western.
Yeah. So like for technique and stuff like that,
Oh,
like
okay.
I guess tone and theme. I also like David Fincher. He did like Fight Club, and stuff like that. For sci-fi, it's funny because I guess I always give this answer and everybody immediately goes, "Oh, well, you must be an anime person." I'm not, but some of the best stories were early sci-fi or early sci-fi anime, like Ghost in the Shell.
Yeah.
What was that one? Paprika, things like that. That's all about consciousness or about dreams and things like that. Okay. So a lot of that was influential to me because I was younger when I watched those because they were older. Nowadays, anime, there's some that are okay, whatever. But the old style of anime was a lot more serious and not so wacky. Had some like deep sci-fi stories that like bordered on like sci-fi / like philosophy, the human spirit or the human, what is your a person, are they the collection of their memories sort of things.
Yeah. What about I think it was a Christopher Nolan directed film, Leonardo DiCaprio,
Inception.
That's the one. Yeah
I love Inception.
Yeah,
that was great.
That's a good mind bender.
That was one, like, I think the index was like just starting out, if I remember correctly, or at least the concept in my brain, because I say 2015 is when it started, but that's more like when it like started making stuff, right? But when Inception came out, I remember just thinking like, damn it, they're taking most of my ideas.
Yeah.
Christopher Nolan, get out of my head.
That's it's a funny thing about ideas. People think ideas are these great concepts that nobody's ever thought of. Like I'm the first person to ever think of this. That just isn't true, man. Ideas are fleeting thoughts. And when somebody grabs onto that idea and actually does something, that's when it becomes something tangible, something meaningful. But I have thousands of ideas, on a weekly basis. And how do you produce an idea into something that's meaningful? Can you try to answer that question?
Well, I think ideas are just like the product of your experiences. I mean, simply put, right? So, and the funny thing is we're so connected now through the internet, obviously, and all that, is that it's so easy to say, oh, look, I had this idea. Now I'm watching it on TV. But the truth is, like, or at least what I would guess the truth to be, is that if ideas are the product of your experience, and we're having more and more of a shared experience all the time, with everybody in the world through our consumption and things that go viral or whatever, then more and more we're going to see those the same ideas come together more and more. So I bet you that phenomenon is going to be happening more often than not. Or, you know, if you want to talk about the index universe or some other collective consciousness theory, is that there is a stream of something going through all of us that's like you come up with those ideas and it's like 10 other people do it too. There's a I want to say, is that the name of a theory or something like that, or a phenomenon or something? Now I want to say it's related to Pixar. I can't remember, but like there's a phenomenon I think in the early 2000s where like a Pixar movie would come out, but then also then like 2 other movies would come out. They're very similar, and there's no way, unless they had spies in each other's, you know, headquarters or something, there's no way that, like, what are the odds of those same type of movies coming out? And a lot of people had theories that it was like consciousness, this sort of thing. But no, to get back to your question, like where do ideas of this come from? And it's like,
well, no, not where they come from. How do you take an idea from concept to something that's people can actually enjoy and participate in?
Yeah.
What's the process of doing that? Hard work?
Well,
fortitude?
Yeah. I think just
don't take no for an answer.
I get, you know, it's, man, that's a good question, because it's kind of, I guess it depends on the medium, what you're building. For film, the easiest one, I guess, to answer for film is like quite literally, I'll start with just a general. So like, let's say the index, for example, like I kind of have a general idea of what the index world is, like the consciousness is affecting reality and glitches and all that sort of stuff. And then, and I think everybody would answer this totally differently, but I'll often like think of a really cool scene that could be in an episode or in a film or something like that, with a general idea of the whole picture. Like, I mean, a blurry, non-concrete view idea of the emotions I want people to feel, you know, like it's totally just this looking through a dark mirror, right? Or dark glass, whatever that saying is. And then all like scenes will kind of pop up like, oh, it'd be so cool if like so-and-so hacked reality and, you know, grabbed a gun off of, you know, I don't know, out of a swamp or something. Like, I don't know. And then it'd be cool if this like action scene took place after that and everything else. And then you know, it's almost like these dots start appearing scene wise, but it takes work to connect those dots. You know, like it takes like legit sitting down, often listening to music, like movie scores or something like that. Just literally sitting in my backyard, staring at a block wall and just thinking, how do I get from point A to point B, but in a fluid, meaningful, character-driven way, you know? So it's like, it starts with this ethereal weirdness that you just have to solidify to the point where it becomes solid. And by the time you get to like editing the thing, all you're doing is taking this like grandiose idea that's so cool. The feeling you get, the excitement you get from the inspiration you get is just like, oh, it's going to be so epic. And you're just making compromise after compromise after compromise until it becomes fixed in reality that people will like or not like. But either way, you'll hate it because you're just making compromises all the way.
Yeah. That's well put. I mean, because I've experienced that myself in the creative process. It's the creative process really is like a sculptor. You see this stone,
right?
You're not carving something into the stone. You're just removing the chunks of the stone that don't belong in the sculpture.
That's a great
good
way.
way.
That's a great
no,
way.
you put it well, and I just kind of expounded on it. So I like
because you only take away, right? Like that's a great analogy because you're only compromise. You can't, you know, it almost never, even if you're like maybe Da Vinci was able to do it. I don't know, but like you know, like you can almost never get it exactly to that feeling or to that ideal. It's kind of like when you're reading a book, you know, and it's you're reading it and then you watch the movie afterwards and you're just like, it wasn't as good because you'll never compete. You'll never compete with the ideal that the person brought because it's a different movie in your head for every single person that reads that book.
That's why I've always felt that it's unfair to compare a book to a film,
Yeah.
even if it's the same name, same concept. Like
Right.
the one that really went away from what the original source material was is World War Z. The book World
Oh,
War
yeah.
Z was
That's right.
nothing close to what the movie was, but
Well,
the
it's like
movie
a
was good
journal or
in its
something,
own
wasn't
right.
it?
Say what?
It was like a journal. The book was like a journal or something.
The book, yeah, it was like a journal. It was like a series of stories about
Yeah.
what people were experiencing through the zombie
That's
apocalypse.
right. Yeah. That's
Good
right.
book, very good book, well done. But and the movie was good on its own as well. I think the
Yeah.
book should have, or the movie should have been called something different because it was not
Well,
anywhere close to what the book was.
well, here's something I learned just a few years ago: is a lot of times they'll have these scripts just sitting there, like it's already
Oh,
written. So
we
like
just need a
I would
name
not
for
be.
this.
Well, that's what it is. They get the rights for something,
Yeah,
and then they just slap the name on it because there's already a following.
yeah,
You know. So like I heard rumor that that last, not the last Ghostbusters, but the Ghostbusters before, was that they already had the script written,
yeah.
not Ghostbusters in mind at all. They just tweaked a few things and made it Ghostbusters, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like, okay. So lots of like, yeah. So World War Z, I can easily see them like, they had a zombie movie.
Yeah.
Oh, crap. Brad Pitt's excited for a zombie movie or like wants to do a zombie movie. What can we do? Go get the rights to World War Z. That's got a big zombie following. And then they just slapped it on there and that's it. That's all they got to worry about.
Aside from the obvious overdoing of CGI in that film, I really liked it. I thought it was a really good movie.
That's pretty cool. Is that the one with
but
the wall, like the
yeah,
zombies?
yeah,
Oh my gosh, that's a very epic like scene right there.
yeah. They encircled Jerusalem in some kind of a wall.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
it's a good movie. I really like that movie.
Yeah.
I've always liked zombie movies since I was a little kid.
Oh, me too.
Yeah.
I used to make zombie movies like in junior high school.
Yeah.
That was the first thing I ever filmed.
Really? You filmed?
Yeah.
You made some zombie movies?
Yeah, with my friends.
That's cool.
Like we literally in high school, I remember we wanted to go all out, and Halloween was coming up. See, back then you couldn't order off anything. You know, there's no Amazon, no nothing like that.
Yeah.
So we had to wait to get all our blood supply and makeup supply and everything else when Halloween was coming, because then what was even
you go to Kmart to the costume section, right?
That's right. No, that's absolutely 100% right. So we knew Walmart was coming, so this must have been like in September or something.
Yeah.
Or no, we knew Halloween was coming. And so what we did was we literally went around the school and asked for donations. And so people it was great. It was like the original crowdsourcing.
That's cool.
Crowdfunding. Cool. It was like we literally went around with a cup and said, hey, can you just donate a little bit of your lunch money? And then we bought like a bunch of makeup and mostly blood. Like it was just mostly blood. And then we made some really horrible but fun zombie movies.
Yeah, it's about the experience, man. The final product.
Yeah.
You really don't know what you're doing at that age. You're just about having a good time and creating memories.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
So when you mentioned crowdsourcing, that is an important thing to talk about, because your project, the Index, would do well. Have you crowdsourced any of it?
No, because I'm too scared to.
Yeah.
It's almost
what are the pitfalls? Go ahead. What are the pitfalls of crowdsourcing that you're concerned
spiritually? It would be, or maybe it's more like saying my ego is it's almost like putting my work to the test.
Oh, yeah.
Do people actually want to see this thing and make it happen, you know?
Right.
And so my thought was always kind of like, well, maybe I should get the first season out, right? I would get the first season out, build a crowd first, and then use that to fund. Right. Because you can crowdfund, obviously, almost from zero. It's a lot of work. And I did a lot of research on the best way to do it. And as they say, as that crowdfunding campaign's going on, it's like a full-time job. You're just going crazy on it. And me, I'm always I just default to I just want to make stuff. I don't want to be doing the crowdfunding stuff. I'm a horrible self-marketer. And so it always it always took it just went to the back burner for so long, and now it's like, well, the strategy is like, let me just get a crowd first, and then I'll consider the funding or crowdfunding.
Do you have you set a hard launch date for this project?
Next year-ish.
Okay. No. So the answer is no.
No. So the answer is no.
In the foreseeable future, maybe.
Yeah. Like it'll cool. Like once we get closer. I mean, within months, I will. Like I'll get to a point where, because I'm still. I mean, it's a side project that's taken up. I mean, half my day at least.
Yeah.
Well,
when I mentioned crowdsourcing, I was more interested in hearing if you have reached out to other creative people to see if they would be interested in participating, helping you develop the concept.
Not much, like I had a partner, actually originally had a partner who was helping develop the story and stuff like that. And then, lives got in the way, and it wasn't until COVID, that I started picking this back up.
Yeah.
And not to make this a sad story, but he actually passed away during COVID.
Oh, sorry to hear that.
From COVID. Yeah.
Damn.
So he, like we were kind of off. We weren't really working on the index pre that. And then that kind of was one of the pushing points to get the index off the ground. And besides, like, I mean, I've hired a couple of developers and obviously people a crew to help me on the set and stuff like that. But no, I haven't reached out to a whole lot. It's getting to that point though. Like, it's like, I like to think I could do everything, but that ain't gonna happen.
What kind of momentum do you have behind the promotion? I know you say you're a terrible self-promoter, but there are some things that you're doing that are right, because when I see your little videos, your journals or whatever you call them, your video journals, those I'm like, when's the next one coming out, Rustin? When are we going to get to play this cool game, man?
I know.
So you're doing it right. You definitely got the teaser effect in full swing. But what's the because you'll go through like a period where you do some real good promotion, and then there's a break in between, and it kind of loses momentum at that point, right?
It's true. No, it's 100% true. Yeah, it's hard to like, because you're trying to build the thing.
Yeah.
But then there's so much work that needs to be done into like even just getting a Twitter post out. Like, and maybe it's because I'm thinking too much about like the post, or I'm trying to like find the right artwork or whatever. Like I hate doing things just quickly. I just hate it. And I don't. A lot of people say, "Oh, OCD" and all that sort of stuff, and I don't know if it's that, but it's like if something goes out, I want it to be good, and so it takes time just to like build up a video or a tweet, even like I did a Happy Halloween thing, and I spent probably at least a solid hour trying to get the right AI art.
I saw that. Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah. Okay.
Twitter,
yeah, that's right. Yeah. And it was like I wanted the pumpkin to be like connected to all these devices, and it's like very indexy, right?
Yeah,
like it's just like all crazy, and it wasn't working with me. And I finally just relented and said, "Fine, it's been an hour," and put it out there. And that's the trick, right? Like it's just like there's so much. And what'll happen, like if I go like those dark periods, a lot of times like it's because I'm working like. Well, I think the last one was because we were like in the middle of shooting, so it's like that's like a 10 to 14 hour day every day. Yeah. So that's like I'm going dark for all that stuff. But it's like I can't just release easy stuff. I would love to just kind of like throw out whatever, or I guess stock art or something like that. It's just hard.
Well, the artwork that I've seen, the videos that I've seen, I know there's quality behind it. I know you're producing quality content.
Thank you.
For the web and for the audience.
To my detriment, apparently.
Yeah. I hope
it is. It totally is.
But I get that, man, because it seems like it's almost built into a creative personality that you have some like flaw that makes you a perfectionist.
It totally does. It totally does.
I feel
like,
you, man.
And the truth is, like somewhere in between is probably that sweet spot. Like
yeah, that's true.
Like you can look
you
at
know
like
you're in the zone when when hours have gone by and you look at your screen and what you've done and you're like, wow, I didn't even realize where the time went. You know you're in the creative
that's
zone.
the truth.
And
That's
that's
100%
the
the truth.
sweet spot, like you said, man. That's
Yeah.
where the secret sauce is made, right there.
Yeah, that's the truth. And honestly, like with the index, I could see, like I said, it's most largely me working on it. But like I always joke with my wife, like, if this does take off and there's a team to be hired, forget it. You know what I mean? I'll lock myself away. I'll just play producer for a lot of it. I'll hire directors and everything else, and I'll just be writing stories and be like,
Nice.
"Here, have this." And like, what is this? A movie? A video game? I don't know. Just make it. just keep writing stories, and then just have creatives do it.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
And every so often, I'll be like, "I like this story too much. I'm filming this one."
Have you thought about putting it into a book form? Oh, well, I guess the story's so still evolving, so it's kind of hard to have sit down and write a story that's not there's no end to it, right?
Well, this is the problem because I go too ambitious. So not only is there a book in the works with a general outline, but there's also an interactive fiction / book.
Oh no! Okay, I get.
That's on top of everything else: the comic book, the ARG, the film series. So the interactive book is a developer right now working on that, just to get the.
So just real quick, explain to people who may not know what interactive media is.
Sure, it's another one of those like loose terms that's kind of whatever you want to make it. For me, I guess like anything that requires the audience to participate, whether even if it's like solo, which a lot of times there's a lot of solo adventures. Video game would be like an interactive media, right? Or like an ARG, where a lot of times you have to work as a team to continue the progress of the story or to kind of get there. I like to think of like a lot, at least for the film series stuff, is like for the index, is I like to think that it's for all audiences, and that's like you can just kick up your feet and just watch the show. You don't have to interact with it, but it's interactable. So that's kind of, I'm coining that term right now, interactable. No, but it's like you can interact to gain more story, but you don't have to.
Is there a movie or a TV series on Netflix where they did an interactive thing where you could?
Oh yeah.
What was the name of that?
They have a couple. There's a lot of kid shows, actually.
It was based on the Black Mirror, the world of the Black Mirror.
That's Bandersnatch.
Bandersnatch, yeah, that was an interesting one.
That was cool.
I don't know. That's interactive movie. You could do the same thing. With tell your own story books or something like that, or write your own story books.
Right. And I think like I liked it. I don't know if like here's a funny thing too, especially the type of stuff I'm making. But like I don't think I would ever want to watch another. Like it was cool as a like one-off, like a novelty sort of thing.
Yeah.
I think the better approach is like make something that it's their choice if they want to dive deeper into it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
As opposed to like making you, because like after a while you don't want to be clicking. You're just watching and that sort of stuff. But like
it does interrupt. It does interrupt the experience of watching a movie or TV series.
Yeah. So it's almost like if it's interactionable. Again, I'm writing that down. But like, okay, here's a great example. So we just watched the Moon Knight. Is that what that new Marvel
TV series on Disney Plus?
Yes.
There was a Moon Knight series.
Yeah. So watching it, no problem, no nothing. But all of a sudden I saw a QR code in the background.
Really?
And I was like, I bet you that's a thing. So like I had him pause it and I did the QR code, and then there's this little thing that kind of popped up. It wasn't like an ARG or anything, but it just kind of gave me a free comic book to a Moon Knight comic book. I was like, what? That's cool, because
that is cool.
That gives people the option, and that's like how word of mouth gets around too.
Yeah.
But that's cool. Like I like that. I like the concept. And that's the whole thing of the index and the following clues and stuff. It's like the story has to be good enough where people just watch it as a story, and that's it. Or read a book. That's it. But allowing them to just dig deeper. That's it.
I like the idea of the QR code. I didn't know that was in the Moon Knight
It's when he's
series.
in the storage shed. He's a bit like, I think
Okay.
he's still kind of not sure what's going on, and he
Is it
opens up the
obvious? Does
storage
it
shed.
pop up on the screen, or is it kind of in the background where you
It's
wouldn't?
it's like a sticker on the door. So he has
Oh,
like, I think
okay.
there's like a scene where his hand, they're about to open it, or they're trying to fiddle with the lock. I can't remember.
All right.
And like it's there, so it's like pretty prominent enough you could scan it. Obviously, it's not like a blurry whatever in the back, but it's there at least in one close-up shot.
That is cool. I've
Yeah.
seen some really interesting uses for QR codes in marketing. I do marketing
Yeah.
is what my business is, and
Yeah.
I've seen people take and create like 3D videos that you scan the QR code and it makes a 3D video play, and it looks it's an augmented reality application.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen
That's
anything like
cool.
that?
Kind of. I seen like AR stuff. I never
Yeah.
followed a QR code that did that though.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
AR's gonna be big.
there's some really cool applications with QR code, and now it's pretty well known. I mean, most everybody knows but back in the day, 10
Yeah.
probably about 10, 12 years ago is when it first started to come out.
Yeah.
And I was telling my clients, you got to do QR codes on everything, and they're like, no, we don't want that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But now everybody's doing them. You got to have them
true.
now.
Yeah. Yep, that's true. There'll probably be QR codes in the index.
Okay.
I think it was Moon Knight. I was like, oh, I should be using QR codes. I think
No spoilers. No spoilers. But
there's gonna be so many clues, like
hidden IP addresses.
Yep, that's right. There's actually a running ARG right now that people can. I kind of purposely made it really hard, but there's actually an ARG running right now that'll lead you to clues and stuff and prize at the end. By the way,
Can we say what that is?
Yeah, you can. I'll tell you what. The first clue is NBug, but typed like Hacker Elite. So it's 3NDBU6.
Okay.
And that should get you, and I'll just say the end, you'll know when it's the end of the ARG. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, I knew that was there, and I followed it. I just didn't want to put any spoilers out there, but it's in a couple of your videos. Yep. Anytime you see, just for anybody who might be interested in following some clues, anytime you see something typed in a weird way, that is a clue. you see something in hacker type, that is a clue.
That's right. That's a good rule of thumb to follow.
Yeah. So I guess we should start winding this down because we're almost at about an hour, and I didn't want to take up too much time. I know you're a busy guy. Probably got your own. Did you say you're self-employed? You have your own business?
I am. Yeah. So I'm actually a more commercial filmmaker, although I'm working on like a kids show right now of all things, which is kind of fun. Cool. Fun, but not my brand.
So not only are we taking time away from your livelihood, but we're taking time away from you finishing the index. Yeah, you got. I mean, I'm sure you probably already thought about this, but are you going to have like some kind of a podcast element to the index?
Yeah, I was thinking what I could do because a lot of the work will be done by then. But once we release the actual 12 episodes, so like again, like once a week, so over like 12 weeks, I want to do almost like a recap sort of podcast, kind of like you remember Walking Dead had the Talking Dead.
Yeah.
I kind of want to do that. I'll like bring on some of the actors and stuff like that. There might be clues in those too. Who's to say? But I kind of want to do like just like a general recap of the show, and then possibly like continue that going after the 12 episodes. I want to do multiple seasons, so it's like this will be the first season called NBug, which is like the most obvious clue, right? But then just continue that podcast all the way through. And I sometimes will live stream on the index, and I want to do this again, but we live streamed a film shoot one day, which is really fun. We had some technical issues, but I want to do that again. So I kind of, and then the production diaries, that sort of thing. I need to do better on. But I do want to do a podcast. Like that's something that's has to happen with the show, I think.
Cool. You do have a newsletter, right?
I'm like getting emails and then they'll like send you clues and stuff. But
No,
it's not,
just
I don't
like when you
like
do a live
updates.
stream, when you're getting ready to do a live stream, you send out an email to your newsletter subscribers.
No, I don't think I've done that yet. I should.
Yeah,
That's definitely something I should.
yeah.
But again,
Because I saw that you were doing a live stream.
Chaos.
Also Twitter Spaces. Twitter Spaces is a big hit right now.
I've been participating in a lot of those. In fact, I have a one I'm scheduled for tomorrow, I think. But those are actually fun. I don't know how new Twitter Spaces is, but especially like, which we didn't even talk about, but like going into like the NFT space and like the whole Web3 and all that.
That's right.
Which by the way is not. That's I always emphasize it because it's such a dirty word nowadays to use NFTs and all that sort of stuff. But I'm mostly interested in like the technology of it, right? Like I'm interested in the independence it can create away from the Hollywood system. Though I'm not like super anti-Hollywood, but I think like we can make this work with or without. But it's going to be for like people that are into NFTs. It's people that are into crypto stuff. So it's not going to be for the average fan that like doesn't care about that stuff. Is not going to affect you at all. So that's one thing I just always want to emphasize whenever I'm talking to people, because it's like literally a slang to sit there and go like, oh, like decentralization and blockchain. Like, it's just a technology. It should be used as a technology. I think the way of like selling a JPEG is gone. Like I think that's kind of done now. But there's still the technology is still a solid thing.
Yeah, I agree. I'm a big supporter of blockchain technology. Yeah. I got into the NFT idea somewhat, and I saw people making money hand over fist.
Oh, in the early days.
Early days. But
people,
then the market...
not to interrupt you, but like there's Beeple. You know who Beeple is?
Yeah,
he's like an artist. Okay, so he's like the third most richest artist or something like that. Right now, or something like that. There's this great video of him, like of a guy. He went to like a convention or something like that, and Beeple was there, and he goes up to Beeple and he has a piece of paper. He's like, "Hey, Beeple, can I show you a magic trick real quick?" And he goes, "Sure." And then he's like, "Just draw a stick figure on this piece of paper." And he's like, "Okay." And he draws a stick figure and he hands it back to the guy, and the guy goes, "Thanks," and he runs away, and that's it. But the dude is like getting offers for like $100,000 just for that little stick figure.
Yeah, that's insane.
But Beeple made so much money off the NFT thing, and obviously, like because of that, even grew bigger as an artist. It's like the hype was just like crazy in the beginning.
Same thing with blockchain when it first came out, Bitcoin, and then you had the Dogecoin hype, which I don't know. It's still a little bit of a hype, but I think there is.
I think we're going to come back to like utility, right? Like we're going to come.
That's what's important. Like, that's what people are starting to. Yeah. And I mean, Bitcoin is still up to $20,000 per Bitcoin now.
Sure. Yeah. So it's a real thing. I don't. It's not going anywhere. It's a real thing. It can create independence. I think everybody's still just trying to figure out what to do with the technology.
Yeah.
I heard a great analogy. It's almost like we just invented the printing press. And now it's like, but what book? And everybody was like, almost like in this fan like craziness of like, well, just print me out a page of whatever. I don't care. I'll pay you $10,000 for it. We're using a printing press because they're just, they saw what the potential of it could be. So people were spending a ton of money, and then all good for them. They made a ton of money. But now we're at a point now where it's like, okay, we have a printing press. Everybody's used to it now. The hype is still there, but it's largely dissipated. Now, what are you going to do with the printing press? And I think we will never come back from the printing press, but we have it now. And it's going to, increase things. One of the things that I'm part of too is Film 3, which is like a take on Web 3.
Mm-hmm.
And all of us, all those Twitter spaces were just like, what are we going to do? I don't know. I'm going to try this. I'm going to experiment with that, and it's like, we're all just like, we know that this printing press, to keep using the analogy, is great. And it's potential is insane. But we still just don't know what to do with it. We're still just experimenting and figuring it out. And the first person to do that, forget it.
Well, it was the same way with the internet, man. When the internet first
Right.
came out, people were getting online and not really knowing what to do.
Yeah.
And then here comes Google, and they organize
That's right.
everything.
That's
and then
right.
people started
But it's funny
using
because everybody uses that analogy of the bubble, right? The
Mhm.
.com bubble.
Yeah,
But they forget to remember that birthed Amazon.
exactly.
You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like that,
and so
like,
many other
and
tech
so many
companies.
others. That's right.
Facebook, a few of them have fallen by the wayside, but yeah,
Right.
the whole social media technology came
Right.
from that tech bubble debacle.
And what's the thing is it wasn't because everybody's so focused on the domains with almost like an NFT JPEG thing.
Right.
They're so focused on it that they didn't think about the utility of it. They didn't think about what you could do with it. And so the ones that survived are the ones that thought that far ahead. Say, hey, I'm gonna provide an actual value, and then they rose to the top.
Yeah. Yeah, we could talk about that's a whole different rabbit
That's all.
hole.
Yeah, that's all. That's right.
So you've already gave your contacts, but I want you to reiterate it for anybody so they don't have to rewind it to catch them.
Sure.
How can people get a hold of you, and why should they get a hold of you? Why should people reach out to you?
That's a good question. So you could mostly if you want to like check out just a general overview of the index, just go to theindex.world. You can follow us on Twitter. I think it's at the Index Project. Yes, the Index Project, and YouTube it's /the Index, and any one of those you can reach out to me. I think there's an email. If you want to reach out to me via email, you can. It's what is it? Info or contact at theindex.tv. So that's another website that we didn't, that's probably going to go away. But so it's just it's an experiment. It's literally an experiment in interactable, I'm writing that down, interactable entertainment.
Good stuff. I can't wait until you come out with some more stuff. I love when you drop a video, I'm there as soon as you drop it. All your tweets I see, I share, at least like them. I may not share all of them, but I at least like them. Whatever I see. I just think what you're doing is cool stuff, man. So
I appreciate that. Yeah. I hope so. And that's, again, like we talked about, it could be my folly as I can't pump it out fast enough. Yeah.
I'm just gonna wrap it up and say thank you, Rustin, for joining me on Dead End Radio.
It was great. Fun,
good luck with the index. Keep going, and I look forward to seeing what you have next, man. Any parting words you'd like to say before we close it out?
Just keep pondering. That's it.
Right on, man.
Thanks, Andrew.
And recording. Yep. If you've enjoyed this conversation and would like to hear more topics like this, please consider leaving a review on iTunes, Spotify, Good Pods, or your favorite listening platform. If you'd like to get in touch with me directly, please visit my website, andrewhall.com. I look forward to hearing from you, and I hope you'll consider joining me for future episodes.